Hi, everybody. Hi. I'm Dr. Westerhoff, and I'm the president of Principia College, and I'm so glad to be here at the opening event on what is a truly auspicious conference at a very perfect time. A conference that emphasizes coming together, addressing tough issues, being in relationship with each other, honoring and respecting that, and realizing sometimes you have some rough roads to go together to get to points of agreement and understanding and peace and respect. So I'm delighted to be here at the opening of this event. I know it's a valuable event. If it were held at any other college, it would be valuable, but I'm so proud and so grateful for the students who have put incredible effort and thought into what we can have here at this community to help us be a better community and to make more of a positive impact on the world. You have full jobs being students and working at other jobs, and here you prepared this conference for us this weekend. Thank you to the speakers. I haven't had the pleasure of meeting you yet, but thank you so much for coming. You show us what it's like to practice these truths when it's not easy and when it's not convenient. So thank you so much. Deepest respect for that. So that's all I have to say. I'm grateful to be here. I look forward to participating in the conference. It's a great event. It focuses on growth. It focuses on the future by addressing what we have in front of us right now. And I can't think of a better thing to have right now for this community. So thank you for letting me make some opening remarks.
Okay. Do you want to start? Yeah. So, selamat datang,
Mabuhay.
and welcome.
I'm Ronalyn, a senior from the Philippines.
And I'm Janita, I'm a senior from Indonesia. And we are the co-directors of this year's International Perspectives Conference.
Before we begin, we would like to ask everyone to join us in a moment of silent prayer to support and embrace Eric, his family, and our entire community.
If you would take a moment.
Amen.
Okay. This year, we have been given the privilege to host and organize the 5th Annual International Perspectives Conference. Let us share a little bit about IPC. So the International Perspectives Conference is a student-led annual conference here at Principia College that provides a platform for individuals from around the world to share their passions and desires for social change.
The aim of our conference is to inspire our community and to be a catalyst for change. This conference is possible thanks to the Pan-African Conference, which kickstarted a movement of empathy, appreciation, and unity and diversity. IPC was once called Pamoja, which means togetherness. We would like to acknowledge our mother conference, the Pan-African Conference, which was founded by Black Student Union. A lot has happened this past week. Both of our hometowns were faced with tragic events. A typhoon hit the Philippines and multiple earthquakes and tsunami hit Indonesia. Just a few days ago, lives were lost. Families were separated.
Also, a few days ago, we experienced a great loss here at Principia too. These events have challenged us and our perception of what it means to be limitless. As we pondered our theme for this year, we were met with limitations, distance, time, and insecurity. Insecurity in a sense that we lack something. As a conference, as individuals.
With this year's topic, we want to inspire and empower individuals to rise above personal and worldly limits and to encourage our community to courageously work towards creating social change.
And we would like to extend some gratitude to everyone who have made this conference happen. Thank you to Sally Steindorf, our advisor, for working with us this past year.
To Billy Miller, thank you for your guidance and feedback. Thank you for everyone who has made this conference possible, from dining to marketing and copy services, and to all of you.
We will now extend our deepest gratitude to our executive board, who have worked tirelessly to bring this conference together. We love you guys. So could you all please come join us on stage to introduce yourselves? Yeah. And if you could give a round of applause for these people.
Hi guys, I'm Myla Moore. I'm one of the public relations.
My name is Jane, and I'm one of the media and design department.
I'm Hannah, and I'm part of the Speaker Relations Committee.
I'm Jessica, and I'm the operations manager.
I'm Della. I'm on Speakers Relations.
I'm Valentina, and the finance manager.
I'm Jeannie, and I'm part of the media and design committee.
I'm Noah, and I'm on the Speakers Relations Committee.
And not here is Laura Cluthe, who's our photographer and social media manager, and also Marie Sherman, who's one of our PR. So.
We will hand it over to Hannah and Jane.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this evening's IPC talk. My name is Hannah Hathaway.
And I am Jane Crisanti, and we have the honor and privilege of introducing the first speaker for the International Perspectives Conference of 2018.
Sulaiman Khatib was born and raised in the village of Hizma, which is northeast of the city of Jerusalem. Growing up, Sulaiman and his family were no strangers to the ongoing conflict between the Israelites and Palestinians. At just 14 years old, Soli was a passionate, violent protester against the Israeli soldiers, throwing rocks, using graffiti, and even preparing Molotov cocktails. It wasn't until he was sentenced to 10 years in prison where he and his friend made the decision to change their lives around.
After being released from prison, Suli helped establish and founded several organizations, one of them being the Combatants for Peace. Ever since its establishment, Combatants for Peace has led hundreds of discussions that have resulted in nonviolence, bringing the conflict one step closer to ending the occupation. Through his work, Suli has come to understand that we as individuals and as a community need to meet people where they are, not where you want them to be. Suli has been twice nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize for his movement towards harmony.
When thinking of Sulaiman and his selfless work, the quote by Nelson Mandela comes to mind. People must learn to hate, and if they can learn to hate, they can be taught to love. After exchanging several calls and emails over the past year, it is our pleasure and honor to introduce the co-founder of Combatants for Peace and Palestinian peace activist, Sulaiman Khatib.
Thank you, guys. Shall I use this thing or? Oh, it's here. Okay, that's much nicer. Hi, guys. Good evening. So thank you for having me here, and really, I want to thank the students that really I was in touch with them about many logistical things and made this happen. So I really appreciate you all of the one that helped this together, put this conference together. Yeah, so I want at the beginning to thank the people that put me in touch with you, that I believe they also graduated from here, or they have some connection with the college here. Janissa and Moria, some of you knows them. They are good friends of mine. And tonight I believe that I will share with you my background and some of my personal story. So afterwards we'll have a conversation, so please feel free to ask anything afterwards. I feel really humbled, focusing a lot on me and my story, and it's really important for me to say that in every culture, I believe, we got attached to the messengers, and it's very important for me to say from the culture I came from, there's a lot to do with the message, and it's very important that we got attached to the ideas and to the message, then we got attached to the messengers. Because I am a human like everybody else with weaknesses also and moments of doubts and all that. So it's very important to keep the spirit of the message that we are talking about here tonight, the unity and love and working together across the borders, wherever these borders are. So, yeah, I also want to mention two things because I will just I've been active all my life. So there is a documentary about the Combatants for Peace, one of the organizations that I helped found. So I would advise people to see it, actually. Maybe some people here have seen it, called Disturbing the Peace. Anybody here seen it? Ah, you did. What did you think of it?
Outstanding, inspiring.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so you can see it Netflix, I believe. So you can see it online. And it's actually not exactly just about our organization or us personally, 8 people for Palestinians, for Israelis. It can talk to everybody wherever we are, especially these days where we are divided so deep, including in this country. I also follow the news here. I have many friends in the US, and we need to find a way to communicate with each other despite the differences and the different opinion, which is supposed to be something beautiful. Yeah, so as you guys mentioned, I born in a village near Jerusalem. My family have been living there as indigenous people to the place for centuries. So the only memories that we have that inherited from my family, my ancestors, is the area around Jerusalem. So I grew up there. I'm 46, just to put the time on the context. I look younger a bit, but that's because of jail. So if you go to jail, actually it's really important for me to mention because you talked about being in jail for 10 years and coming out as somebody different, like changed and transformed. This is not how it works for everybody, just really to make it clear. And otherwise, because some people say, okay, well, you are a nice guy, you know, like you promote nonviolence now. So what about sending everybody to jail for some time? So that's not the situation that, you know. But definitely for me personally, as I said, like I've been active. I grew up in a simple Palestinian family, traditional family, where my family and my community have been connected to the land where they lived their life. And I grew up to be a good guy. Means a good guy in the eyes of my community is to protect our land from whoever come to take the land. Very simple. It's not, my family were never extreme, or I come from a Muslim family. My father actually used to work in Jerusalem municipality, which is run by Israelis, so he spoke Hebrew fluently. He used to have Israeli friends. I myself, next to my village, between my village and Jerusalem, there is also an Israeli town called Neve Yaakov. I used to play football, soccer, not the American football, with kids from that neighborhood, Israeli kids. I still remember their names. So I grew up in around, in Jerusalem, like you always have people from all kind of Abrahamic background, like Muslim, Jewish, Christian, and non-believers, and everything you want. Of course, Jerusalem and that area is a very special area for many people. I believe for you too, it's very special, like in a spiritual wise. For us, it was not just spiritual, it's also practically, it's our city. I grew up in a village, so when you need to study or for working or for anything that you do in the city, basically 10 minutes. The bus of my village used to go to Jerusalem, it was 10 minutes back in the days. Now it's changing, we'll reach there because of the separation system. So in my childhood, in my school was under Israeli control at that time, so means using the Palestinian flag, where I seen it, okay, it was here, was illegal, for example, or to use the term Palestine was illegal. Actually, also, if you don't understand my English, anytime, please stop me. Because my English had a Middle East accent and jail accent, because I learned also in jail. So if there is any words, please ask me. Yeah, so in my school time, I used to be active like on raising Palestinian flag. It was illegal, like this can put you in jail for 6 months at that time. Or to raise the Palestinian flag in electricity in the buildings at night. You know, Palestinian kids. This was, you know, like every family, like my family, like every family, they want you to be safe, to study, and to go back home, and to be the good guy, like to follow your family. I am really not good with this. I never really followed my family, I have to say. So means I used to go out at night, sneak, in order to do the activities that I do. When I became 13, 14, my grandfather's house, I have an aunt, she lives there, so I used to go to stay in her place, so I can play with my mom and dad, tell them I'm sleeping there. So basically, in order to do whatever I do when I was little. So, and all these things were secret, like your family doesn't know that you're throwing stones or anything. They will not prove that. So basically for me, when I was 13, 14, the only way to protect my my homeland, if you wish, was using violence. That's the only way I knew when I was 14. I never heard of Martin Luther King, Gandhi, Mandela, and so on, like the ones I learned about later on. I was in touch with older people, adults. I was coordinator of my group. My group were like 14 years old kids, so I was proud also personally to know things that they don't know and to be like coordinating. And also it's give you a lot of fun and proud to face like this heavy Israeli army. It's a big army, as you know, one of the strongest in the Middle East. So as a child, when you throw stones, you feel proud. You feel, it's risky, of course, but you don't think about it this way. Anyway, to make the story short, I decided with one of my friends, he was 17 and a half, not in my group actually. His family house was demolished by the Israeli army because they claim it's a legal building and they don't have the permit. And this policy still exists until now. He was really angry, but he was not activist. He was not politically engaged in anything. And he was angry, and we decided to attack 2 Israelis in order to take their weapons. And this was, I was 14 and 5 months, exactly. So I was not violent, if you want to imagine, in my life. I was not violent. But this stabbed them with knives, and this battle next to my village in a valley that's really famous, like called Cult Valley. It had a lot of old monasteries and water. It's a very important area. It's between Jerusalem and Jericho, where my family basically, I grew up there. And this battle ended up with slightly wounded for the 2 Israelis. Yeah, and this event has changed my life, of course, because you know, the army came, take them to the hospital, and they start like searching for us. This was a bit of like a movie, if you want the truth, because we have. It was in August, August 2020. This is like really summertime, like heavy summertime, and then we escaped from that event to my village, back to my village. We have to run like in the mountains, like for a few hours. With the sweating, it was very hot, and we were afraid, of course. And the Israeli army was searching using helicopters and all kind of like tools to find us. And we end up actually in my family land next to my village that have olive trees. And this is the most important piece of land to my family. My grandfather, my ancestors used to be there all the time. And we rested there, we drank some water at noontime, and then the army were asking us to, I don't know the word in English, like to surrender. But we somehow knew they don't see us. They just call us with a microphone, like from afar, because we thought if they see us, they will come to us. They will not even talk to us. So we decided to escape to another village, like 3 villages, and we became far from the space of the event. And then the story was in the TV, and they draw us like in the TV. And they also did a curfew to bring everyone from my village, from age of 13 to age of 30, to check their faces and teeth. My friend, that he was 17 and a half, had a golden teeth. And they saw us. They saw this, and so they were searching this, and also how we look. Anyway, so we didn't came to the search, to the curfew, when they put people in the yard of the school, we didn't show up. So it was easy to find out who's missing. It's a small village. My village was like 2,000 people. Now it's like 8,000 people. And also our families start looking for us. Anyway, so after like 1-2 days, we came back home. After the news were in the media, and it was like a big thing. And after a few days, the army came and arrested all my group, like the young one, and there's a group, 18 years old. So they arrested all of us. At this point, they take us to jail. I don't want to go in so much details because it's a really long story, and I'm working on a book with a friend of mine about these details. So, you know, like, taking you to jail means then it's a new stage in your life. You go to unknown, like you don't know where you're going. You lose your decision. You don't decide what you're doing. Somebody else decides on your behalf, and you have to obey. That's the only way. So basically, they put you in it's a night time and a lot of army. And for me, like, it was very hard because I was ready to go to jail because that's like immediate after this kind of thing, the only thing you got killed or you go to jail. There is no other options. I tried to escape from the country actually, but I couldn't because I didn't have passport at that time. I was young. But you know, in front of my mom, I want to show that I was strong and not to like cry and this. That's also part of the culture, is to be like a man culture, but also more than just a man culture. To show that you are strong and you don't care, because you are going to be tortured in the investigation time. So basically, they put you in this big army cars, and I don't know what you call it in English, like cover your eyes and handcuff, like behind, and you put you in the car, and then they drive like for a few hours. You don't know where, and also you will be beaten like physically. To the investigation. I was in the investigation like 20 days, means like a lot of torture at that time. So this was not easy, you know, I was young, and in that time they put you alone, not with other prisoners, like in isolation place, and also they use a lot of policies of torture, physically and psychology, and you have to stand for hours or to sit in a chair with all the cover like for hours, and the smell and the food is like little food. A lot of policies about. I can talk about this. Yeah, but anyway, after this time, I was sent to Hebron jail. The investigation was in Ramallah, where I live now. I was sent to Hebron jail in Hebron, and I lived with teenagers before under 18. I was also the youngest prisoner for some time, actually. And then I was going back and forth to the court. In the court, I became 15. My friend became 18. So they sentenced me actually 15, and they sentenced him 18. And this was a bit of joke in jails. Everybody knows us because we got sentenced by our age, basically. So just so for people to understand, if the same offense happened by Israeli live in West Bank, we go to different legal system. The legal system we live is an army system. It's an army law. It's not the normal Israeli law. It's a different thing, like an army court. Anyway, so they also blocked my room in my family house for the next 10 years. Means they put like cement and iron the room, the windows where they arrested me. For the next 10 years, my family can't use it, and the army come check every week to see if they open it or not, until I left jail. And that's it. Then my next journey in jail, I was active in jail also, and jail we are divided into different organizations. There were a lot of like a communist party, Fatah party, which is more secular to a certain level, and a national party. There are many parties, and there's also Islamic parties. So every organization, they control their members or their supporters, what kind of books you read. We were a very organized community, let's put it this way. And every day we had like 5 sessions of like learning, reading books. It depends which organization you belong to. So in jail, basically, what we used to say that the prisoners changed the jail from torture place to a revolutionary university. That's how we used to call it. It's not the best university. You never got like credit, but that's how we used to call it. In jail, one of our rules, we don't use violence because of the power and balance there. And the Palestinian prisoners learn from the Irish. Where is the Irish guy? Hi. Okay. I'm just giving you credit back. So, and generally, the hunger strike, food hunger strike, is the main non-violence tool that the prisoners use. And many people think on Palestinian, that it's made by Palestinian. The truth, we learned it from like a famous Irish hunger strike that happened, I believe, in the 1980 something. And the people died in the hunger strike and was successful. And since then, the Palestinian prisoners use the hunger strike all the time. So my first hunger strike, I was 15, together with 120 kids in jail for 10 days. So this was my first time to be hungry, like really hungry. So hunger strike means you sign a paper, you don't eat until there is a committee, decide when to stop the hunger strike. So why we do hunger strike? In order to improve the conditions in jail, we ask more books, non-filter books, or more water, or to visit our families half an hour, we ask 40 minutes, like daily life conditions. And these are not guaranteed like conditions. So basically you have to struggle all the time to maintain whatever achievements and to improve the life in jail. So once you decide to go into the hunger strike as a group, you can't stop, as I said, and you drink a lot of water, 10, 12 cups of water a day or more. The water became really like hard to drink. It's not the normal days. It's not the water that we know. It's another taste. So, but you have to drink a lot of water and salt. That's why it's called in Arabic and Hebrew actually, mayo melh. This is the famous slogan for the hunger strike, water and salt. There is a lot of Palestinian music about this. You can see it if you go to Palestine. You see that written in the wall in Bethlehem, many places, salt and water. Yeah, that's how you keep survive. And this is also, that's how for me, practical-wise, I learn about nonviolence. Before I read anything or I know about any theories, is really the practicalities. I saw that nonviolence work. You know, one of the questions, since if we have conversations, one of the challenging conversations and questions that we have back home and in many other places is this: nonviolence can work or not? That's really a challenge, a question back home when people oppose what we do now. That they don't believe that nonviolence can work. That's a big question. For me, I learned that practically, like before I read any book. Through the hunger strike, we always succeed to achieve most of our demands. Anyway, so I've been with the other prisoners in hunger strike a few times. The longest one was 17 days. That was my last hunger strike. And 17 days, we coordinated like 1 year in advance with 4,000 prisoners. All the Palestinian prisoners in Israeli jails joined that hunger strike. And this was one other element of successful is unity among the community, of whatever community. We don't have this now. We'll talk about later. But at that time, we have more solidarity with each other. It was a community and unity. And that's why maybe somebody say, how did you spend the time in jail? Because you don't feel alone. And you got strengthened, like spiritual-wise, from the group spirit that was there. And also, just to say, the coordination among the prisoners, we don't have telephone or anything. Like, it's all secret. There are committees. And we used to use, I don't know what you call it, Shifra code, like secret language that we created, and the other committee in other jail, they can read what we prepare, hunger strike or something. How we communicate, that's also maybe interested for some people. So we write on like toilet papers in a small line, and we roll the papers, and we put plastic around it, and it became really small. We call it in Arabic, I believe in English also, capsule. And when they transform prisoners from jail to jail, this is also, you don't decide. They decide who to transfer twice a week from jail to jail. So we give them these capsules, a few of them, to put them in their mouth in order to give it to the committee in the other jail. That's how the communication works in jail. It's like a creation of like a cell phone, but yeah. And it's really interesting, but actually this is not easy experience. Like I'm making it easy and light, but this is not easy because when you go from jail to jail, they put you, like they check you, they search you, like body search, I don't know what you call it in English. Like you can go naked also sometimes. So yeah, you've been South Africa, so you know that. But actually sometimes they would ask you to open your mouth, sometimes not. So what you have to do, you can't give these capsules to the Israeli police. You can't, under any condition. So if they ask you to open your mouth, you have to turn your back to them and swallow them. And the Israelis knows about this, what I'm talking about. It's not a secret. So if you do that, that's also when you go to the other jail, you go, sorry to speak about this, but that's how we keep them here. Anyway, so this is the communication. And as I said, I'm really writing a lot about these details because many people think of the Palestinian prisoners in one way or another. You know, like if you are from this side, you think, oh, these people are violent by nature and terrorists, and that's it, finished story. And this is not really the truth here. I'm maybe trying to humanize everybody, but I just want to say I also don't represent the majority of the prisoners that were with me, but I share like how did we live next to each other and created this community with the culture and learning, and that with the, as I said, like in our culture, we have a principle called sumud. Sumud in English means steadfast. And that's what the spiritual like strengthen that give you, that in you, that you could live under the hard condition in jail. It's not easy to live with 10 people or sometimes 20, 24 hours. It's not a simple thing. As I said, like sumud culture exists in the Palestinian culture like since like long time ago, and means you resist by your existence, basically. My sister named Sumud because when she born, I was in jail, my other brother was in jail. So my family gave her the name Samud. This is very famous term in Arabic language, in Palestinian culture more, I would say. So afterwards, I also, okay, so basically, we had a cultural committee in jail. So we study all kind of, like we teach each other. That's how the education happened in jail. But as you know, like at that time, I knew some Hebrew, a few words, but what we used to learn Hebrew under this title, learn your enemy's language. That's really the truth. So I studied Hebrew. And also I learned English in jail, and history and many things. This was a big part of my journey and my change and my transformation, because, you know, like I'm a curious person and critical, and definitely I studied everything from a Palestinian narrative, from a Palestinian eyes. And that's very important to say, because if I study about Zionism, I studied from a Palestinian eyes. You maybe got it. It's not. That's very important. Who you read, like who's like the writers. So this was important in jail, that you keep on the same narrative. As you know, like we have multiple narratives for this conflict. I am coming from a Palestinian narrative at that time, and then when I studied Hebrew, I started reading different things that I read before. And this is really, I can tell you, my journey. And for many people that change, it's not easy to know and to feel that you are, what you know is the only truth, and then you read somebody else's truth, and it's contradict with yours. It's really a big challenge, spiritual-wise and also intellectual-wise. But it's not about facts, just. It's about the feelings and psychology behind it. So I learn both narratives, if you wish, but they definitely conflict with each other. It's not, from the first scene, it's not easy. And yeah, and since then I've been in this journey of trying to understand what we call, if you put yourself in the other side shoes, it's not easy, but I have some, in jail, for example, first time I knew about, you know, as a Palestinian, I learned Israelis there are just another European colonialism power. That's it. Like French in Algeria, that's same. Or the American in Vietnam, if you wish. But when I read in Hebrew and I see the connection to the land, it makes me think in openness and without giving up my own truth, let's say, and my family and my community. And I don't, now where I am now, I don't see conflict there as I used to be confused. I studied, also, of course, when I was in jail, that was the time Nelson Mandela was in jail for Palestinian prisoners. He was, and still, a very important figure, close to the Palestinian cause. And in jail, I read about Martin Luther King and the struggle in the United States, also about Gandhi in India, but also we study about armed struggle. So not everybody became Gandhi, eventually. So you can go both ways. But, you know, just to connect with today, first time for me, I grew up in a community that, Abrahamic religion are there. And even we were not religious necessarily in my rooms in jail. But, first time I read, Jesus said, love your enemy. That was really a big, I still remember this. I was 16. I really have step back when I read this. It's not theory. This is really in a real time to tell a prisoner to love the police. Yani, that's big thing. It's not simple thing. It's very challenging, honesty. And I have reaction of this statement, for example, and it takes from me years to understand this. Yeah. So as I said, I came from different cultural aspects here that they look conflicted, but also they have harmony somehow. And I'm aware of my own local, if you wish, history and culture. And I'm very open person. I used to also read about the world and everything. Somehow I got lucky, privilege, if you wish, to zoom out from my own suffering in order to be able to see the other side, what we call the other. And that was very important for me, a help for me to open myself to see things differently. And I am aware how this challenge for many people. It's not easy, and it's really easier to stick to your own narrative and feel you are right and they are wrong. Us and them, that's much easier life, I have to say. Because when you go into confused and this, it's not easy. But until certain level, when you feel like more peaceful in your heart with where you are. But this is take a long, long time. Like, for example, in the documentary that I mentioned, you'll see there's a scene there when me and other prisoners watched the documentary about the Holocaust. During the movie, my room were in jail for 10 years and more than even 10 years, everybody was crying. We turned the light off and we watched the movie and everybody was crying. And these are 10 prisoners that every one of them was like a serious fighter before. And they were in jail for a long time. Well, you know, our human side can like involve here. In a few minutes, we have to turn the light off, on, and ask the Israeli police to bring us hot water to make tea because we don't have hot water in the room. We have to ask him. And this is the like challenge that we go through in these small details. Like in one side, you feel empathy and sad for that story, and then you have to talk to their grandchildren. That is the police. It's really, it's not simple position to be. But somehow, also, if you are coming from a victimhood like feeling, it's not easy to overcome that and also to see the other one, which is stronger by fact in the system, because we're not talking about two sides. We are talking about imbalance in power here. It's not simple like to come from this place and to feel empathy to the strong one. But I believe like nonviolence and get out of the victimhood. Even though you are suffering every day, this is the strongest place that you can be, that you show strength in, even to the police. And we know this story from Nelson Mandela, the movie. We know that his connection to the guard in the jail, it's very strong. But many people will oppose that eventually, everywhere, unfortunately. Anyway, so as I said, like I learned English, Hebrew, history, in jail. And so jail is not a university because some people think, like when we talk about it, but there is a lot of like moments, ups and downs, and I spent 10 years and 5 months, so it's a long story and many details. And through the jail time, I reached conclusion of many things. One of them, for example, and it's not just me, some other people, that there is no military solution for our conflict. I specifically talk about our own conflict, and even everywhere for me now, but specifically. And this is really practical, firstly. But then for me, nonviolence became ideology. It's not just because of practical reasons. It's also strengthened, and nonviolence is much stronger than violence. It needs a lot of patience. And what we talk about in nonviolence, and we read this from Martin Luther King and others that approach nonviolence in their life, that inspired us. It's actually to free the oppressed and the oppressors. It's not just for one side of the story. And all the stories we have, it had more than one side. And we need the two sides to come together. And that's really the challenge, to bring these two sides always together. But in order to do that, we need to do a lot of work and a lot of like psychological work. Because the trauma that we have, we inherited that from our families, from our communities, and it's there from the history and individually also. So it's a lot of work we have to do. After jail, in the second intifada, I am assuming that everybody knows what's the intifada, the uprising, the Palestinian uprising, that started in 2000. There is the first intifada that started in 1987, and the second Intifada started in 2000. I was out of jail. Some of my friends, they came back to fight. The one were with me in jail because they became stronger and they like know more than other people. And some people like myself really start talking about nonviolence, and so we gathered together like a few people many times in conversations. I knew thousands of people because in jail I met many people in jail, like Palestinian prisoners from everywhere. And so this led me, as I said, like to really, okay. I participated in some demonstrations that has no violence, for example, and in many conversations that talk about nonviolence, because I really came out of jail, believe violence is really against us all, both sides, basically, even if you have justification of any kind. And definitely practical-wise also, it's more smart for us as Palestinians to use nonviolence in front of this heavy army. And so this would lead me like to another stage. It's all like journey, as I said, long journey, to be open, to meet what we call the other, and to meet the enemy. It's not like it's really easier to talk about that than really physically do that, especially during the violence time, like during the Intifada. This is like during violence time. So yeah, as I said, I speak Hebrew and everything, but I really never met Israelis that are not in uniform. I don't know any Israelis like that. The only Israelis I know, knew in my life, in jail, like police and army. That's the only Israelis I interact with in a daily life. I was living in my village, and in order for me to go to Ramallah or to other places, it takes from you ages because of the checkpoints and all that. And I lost also, some of my friends were killed or injured or went back to jail. I have some friends, they were still in jail. It's not just like theories, it's like really small details of daily life. But somehow I kept my spirit of getting out of the reality to think and to feel what could we do differently to make change in this like harsh reality. Ongoing circles, because what happened the second Intifada, the Israeli army used for the first time more force, more like air force. I never seen that in my eyes, except in the second Intifada. In the Palestinian side, there were a lot of conversation about armed struggle or nonviolence. So for some people, you know, like it was easy. Like there is always this conversation. Like, if they are using all this force, so we can use bombing. Like one person go to a restaurant, bomb himself, and that's it. And this happened also in the Intifada. So basically, I end up with openness to meet Israelis, and this is also, as I said, like was challenging, but it was in the line of my beliefs, and that we all, like, we are there to stay, and we have to find a way to, like, I basically looked for partners from the other side. That's the story. And that's the story for the Israelis I meet, because in their society, in our society, the people that are against us, they will tell you, okay, you want like dialogue, you want peace, this and that, but what about the other side? And this question also happened in the other side as well. So it's very important to have partners from both sides to work together. And this, for me, I became like part of creating what we call it the third narrative, a new narrative that's really recognize the narratives of both sides without legitimizing the occupation or any violence, with also highlighting the imbalance in power and the injustice, but taking responsibility together in order to make this change and taking our destiny in our hands. That's it. Very simple. And I connected directly with a bunch of Israelis that were in the army, in like special forces, also that reached the same conclusion, basically. So both of us were not in the mainstream, not in the Israeli side, not in the Palestinian side, as you know. And definitely you will have people against you, but some people say you have to pay the price socially because you are out of your group. But some other friend said, you gain a new community and a new family and you free, because we are talking about limits, so you free yourself from the limits of the red lines that we grew up with. And I am aware of this challenge, but now I'm peaceful with where I am. And so since out of jail, I'm really active in bringing our people together from Israelis and Palestinians, and sometimes also we do work with other conflicting areas in order to learn from each other. And our conflict is not special, it's like everywhere. And I feel through the years that changing like myself is more important to me, I have to say. And what I read when I was in jail, like that things can start with me, and what we say peace starts with me, it's really true. And it had impact. This energy had impact on other people, and I see on my journey a lot of people actually changing by opening their hearts, and that's what's important to me. And the last 2 years, I'm finishing here, I start learning something also started in the US, like everything else, nonviolence communication, if some people are aware of that. There's this book of Marshall Rosenberg, and it's really helpful because this is changing a lot how I see things, that people can meet on the level of needs and feelings. Because like if you come to any Palestinian-Israeli meeting, it's already like challenge, but then the one in the meeting in a competition, who suffer more? And this is really hard to get out of this. But if we meet on the needs level, what Marshall Rosenberg say, that all the needs of humans in all the history are legitimate. We just have conflict in the strategy. And actually when we use that, I feel it's really easier to meet people and like on a common ground. Yeah, so that's my like background. The flute I can play it at the end to make our light a bit. Okay, I have my flute. This is very important in our like folklore tradition. And I used to be a shepherd when I was a child. After the school, my family had sheep, and like 10 of them, 20. So I'm still connected to that culture, I have to say. Yeah, and now is the olive harvest actually in 2 weeks. So that's very important to mention. In our culture, this is so important. It's a holy time. And this olive tree is a very holy in our religion and culture. And unfortunately, this have impact. I don't have enough time to explain that, you know, you have to cross the wall now in order to go to your land. That's my mom's situation. My mom is named Sarah. So anyway, I learned a lot from her, just to say, before I read about all the respected nonviolence heroes. And I really believe, like, one of the Islamic scholars, maybe some people know his name, Ali bin Abi Talib, his name, is basically now followed by the Shiite side, the Shia side. And also in Sunni schools, they teach us about him. I tried to translate it in English. Basically, there are a lot of books by him that have wisdoms. And one of them that I relate to our subject here is that he says, make no steps to turn your friend to an enemy, and make 1,000 steps to turn your enemy to a friend. And that's, I believe, the direction that we are talking about. Yeah. Thank you. So, yeah. Thank you. Oh, if anybody have anything to say, please. I don't know. I'm deciding who's speaking. Okay, somebody else would be nice. Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Can you speak specifically to what you've done to reach out to Israelis to find common ground?
Okay. Shall we do like one question or, okay. How are you guys feeling? Okay. I'm trying to practice nonviolence communication, and they always do check in, like how you feel. And now we're doing it all the time. Yeah. What's your name? Can you say your name, or like something so? Ah, thank you. So I wow. I basically was and still active in different forms of meetings. I believe in dialogue, even though there is a lot of criticism about dialogue. And dialogue is not enough now for the Palestinian side because of what happened on the ground. Dialogue is usually much better for the strong side. Typically, I'm aware of this. But I really believe in the power of a few techniques that we can talk about, which is all under nonviolence actually approach. And one of them, like it could be the power of silence and praying. This is a very strong energy. And when it comes together, I believe, like, for example, I've been in many dialogue sessions. I did a lot of summer camps with kids, and I worked with kids using football, soccer, because kids there, they love football, like from both sides. For a few years, I was doing that, actually. I also work with ex-prisoners and ex-fighters from both sides, using my own personal story, because that makes me easy for me to talk to people that were in the same background. And that's actually one thing important to say, that ex-prisoners in this case and ex-soldiers have power more than normal people, I have to say, because you got credit that you were in jail, unfortunately, but that's how it works. They look at you, even you have a criticism, but still you got some credit because you did your duty, supposedly. Like we use social media, we use like physical direct meetings, like these meetings, and different technique. For example, in Combatants for Peace, we also use theater of the oppressed. If people are aware of that? Theater, for example, and we had like a joint theater, a Palestinian and Israeli group. We use also nonviolence demonstrations. So I'm talking about different energy, different technique that we have to use, including some nonviolent direct action. At this moment where I'm talking to you, there is a Bedouin Palestinian community in Khan al-Ahmar are under demolition of their village. And we were active and still in this community every night we are there. This is between Jerusalem and Jericho, Dead Sea. And the Israeli court decided to remove this village, like just they decided. And our group are really active there now in solidarity with this community, for example, by being there and meeting also Israelis. And we do a lot of like education tours, like to see the reality for Israelis and other people also. So I feel like where I'm now, if you want to ask, I do have like a real, the personal connection are also important. Because when you see the movie, you will see a scene about Gaza war in 2014. Our group were strong together even during the dark times, during war time where people can split and come back to their side. So we need a few visionary, optimistic people to stay on that level, despite the reality. That's the only way I can see historical change. In our case, or in any other revolution that I know about in history, some people stay optimistic there. So as I said, there are many techniques that we could use to meet what we call the other and turn the other into me or us. And for me, as now, I'm not in the mainstream mindset anymore. So I belong to the, in this new reality that we try to create. It's not we will, it's now. And I live this despite the physical reality. Yeah. Thank you.
Hello.
Hi.
Shukran.
What's your name?
Ian. Mm-hmm. So I really love the talk. Thank you so much. And this is all wonderful things. One of the questions that I have is we've talked a little bit about theater being a very big push for change and a push for peace in Palestine. And I'm writing my capstone thesis on the performing arts as a tool for peace building. And Israel-Palestine conflict is actually my main case study. And The question I have is, I've seen a lot of different things about theater, and it's been really wonderful. But I was wondering, do you know much about about music being used as a tool for peace building?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I was going to ask if you was just curious of what you know and what you've seen as well.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, I know of like some musicians that use their music and songs in order to make change there. We used to do last year what we call the freedom marches. We also take the name from Martin Luther King time, so just give credit back. And so we actually, one of the, like a few times we did brought like some singers, famous singers, to sing and perform there. First of all, just to say there is a challenge for the art people to join anything joint, like between both sides, because of a lot of criticism again. But I know a few singers, and they are supporting us, and they perform, and they use their music as a bridge and as a tool for change, especially when we talk about Arabic and Hebrew. It's like similar language, and the music is similar, and the culture and the taste is similar. That's why we are harsh with each other. But yes, I agree that music can be really a bridge, like sport, like many other techniques, bridge among like different groups. It's not used enough. That's what I would say so far, because of the criticism. And like famous artists are, even if they agree, they wouldn't put their name publicly on something together. Because we, many times you have also a singer from the US coming there, try to bring a Palestinian singer and Israeli, and to do like big music event. This is like, well, yeah, it's not easy, but also I would say there is a privilege in this also, honesty. In the privilege side, this is easier to use. Music, art, and this. For my mom and our people that have survival needs, they are not there. And that's really important what you said. We have to meet people where they are. There are a lot of people in the survival need. And we can't really go ask them about animal rights now. Or to use, like, yeah. But definitely in our culture, like the music was always part of the things, and it's possible to use. And if you look online for your research, like Mir Awad, for example, and Noah, like these are our friends. I can put you in touch with them also. Like, they always like supportive and create like really nice music. Oh, I see this.
Hi. Thanks for an amazing talk, really inspiring. On a very difficult topic, I think my head is, I'm trying to just figure out a lot about still my view on the conflict. My question for you is about the boycott movement of Israel. What's your thoughts on that? Is that, yeah, I'd love to hear what you think about that.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, that's always really a tough question, I have to say. I know it should come always, especially here. Okay, I am coming from a shared, like joint movements. So that's very important to say. So what I would say is this, and that's what we, in my organization, that's what our position exactly is this, after a million like conversations and debates, and still, because it's hard to agree on this, or yes or no. But so what we came with this, like the boycott, the BDS movement, the boycott in general is definitely legitimate nonviolent tool that people have the right to use if they want. For us as a joint movement, we are not part of the boycott. Yeah. So I tell you some of my closest friends, if you see the movie, one of the like theater teachers, Khen Alon, he's a close friend to me. For example, I was with him here a few times, and you will see him in the movie. Last year, I just want to mention this because some people maybe remember this. Our documentary won like a different award in different festivals. So we were together last year, I believe, no, 2 years ago, in Michael Moore Film Festival, Michigan. I think it's not far, right, from here. And definitely the people that came there, a lot of them supporting the BDS, which is fine. I thought sitting there with Khin Alon, my friend, he's one of the founders of Combatants for Peace, and he does teach nonviolent theater of the oppressed. He's very well known. And they asked us about the boycott, and honestly, for me, I'm not gonna boycott my ally, if you wish, and my friend in the way. And his daughter was in jail because she refused to serve in the army. So I'm not gonna boycott her, definitely no. And for me, I struggle for her, and for my sister, it's just the same. I know this is not a popular maybe thing to say because it's much easier, as I said before, if you see things one way or another, it's definitely easier. For somebody outside, they can see things differently, they can decide and choose. But that's where I am, and I'm aware that the people that have power will not release the power for free. That doesn't happen in history. And we have to struggle, even men and women, same. That's what I know. So just you guys know, you have to struggle to get your rights. It's not coming for free, it's not coming easily, and to change the power structure. But for me, as I am really proud and happy to have Israelis and Palestinians and whoever international in the same ship, despite the differences, I believe this is not the only way, but I believe this is the way for me. And it doesn't conflict with the BDS directly, if you wish. Definitely the relation between us and the BDS dialect. Some of the people in BDS are my good friends, and they tell me, you are not normalization, you are okay, you have a whatever. And some not. And this is legitimate. The challenge, if you want me to be more honest, the challenge in our struggle is really the division among these groups. That's where the challenge. I don't really mind that many people against us. This is normal. What's not normal for me, and that's maybe a self-criticism, that we have a lot of interior challenges among different groups. I believe where are you, South Africa? You have the same story, right? Also in Ireland. We work with some organization in Ireland, and I met these two amazing guys from Ireland, one from each side. They were in jail for 12 years, one of them. And they made a movie about them called 5 Minutes in Heaven. Forget their name. And they told us in Ireland there was the same story, the same problem. Working with the enemy is something criticized by the mainstream. People don't accept that. When you bring in new ideas, that's not common, not in the mainstream. But this is, for me, is the way ahead to, with a respect to the past. And I am a person, I love history, I love the past, I'm also nostalgic to many things, but also we have to let it go a little bit of the old story to create the new story. We need space to create the new story. And it's a painful operation. It's a painful journey. And lately I start reading, I have this book, Mindfulness and Buddhism a bit. It's really talking to me a lot. So I really believe, for example, I tried to convince some of the organizations I'm related to do something like what they did in Vietnam, like a silent march. But so far I'm not successful to do that because we used to have flags and yelling and this. It's not easy to come to convince people, let's have 10,000 people marching into Jerusalem, into the checkpoint, together with Israelis and Palestinians, using silent energy. It's not a typical thing there, with the culture. We're shouting all the time. But I believe that change is possible and people can listen. And so anyway, I wanted to say that the point here that there is no conflict of having different technique, different organization, doing different things. We shouldn't fight each other. That's my point. But we have to agree on certain moral values. without hypocrisy and different, like, yeah. That's where I am, yeah, basically. That's what I think about it.
Thank you for all those questions. And thank you, Sully. Oh, thanks again.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And
thank you.
Thank you all for coming. If you would like to join us in Leonard Hall for some snacks and refreshments, feel free to chat with Sully, chat with each other. Thanks for coming again. Yeah.
Thank you.